Hi, film addicts. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a special guest, Jody Neely. Jody is an Emmy nominated director, producer, and cinematographer known for shooting the Beastie Boys videos, the Hannah Montana show, and more commercial work than he or anybody can remember. Jody, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marilyn. I love the show. I'm an official addict now. Love your content and the direction you're going. It's fun to have a collective place where creatives can come together and really share their thoughts and the ideas of what it takes to actually put projects together and the pitfalls and all the things that are described within that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. So Jody, where are we recording you live today from?
I'm in LA in the Valley,
Okay, great.
and
Yeah.
we've actually got a nice day today. It's 80, so beautiful winter day in LA.
Yeah, and I feel bad for all the people in the snowstorm, like my friends in Texas. So I hope they're doing well, especially if they're tuning in. So I want to
In
ask.
Denver,
Oh,
Denver's in there as well. A lot of
oh my.
people from Denver are in the same position. Lots of negative temperatures and snow and stuff.
So well, I hope
And
that we can at least entertain them with the podcast while they're snowed in, right?
exactly.
Yeah. And so we love movies here and television, but I want to ask you, what is one of your favorite movies that you remember as a kid growing up?
Of all time, probably Dr. Strangelove comes to mind.
Ooh, yeah.
It was just such a different style and type of movie, even for its time. The story that it unfolded was just quite shockingly poetic, and that's exactly the form that Stanley wrote the piece in. Was a satire. That's the only way he could envision that story to be told without it being so hellishly nightmarish that it couldn't be defined by a comedy or satire setting that someone like Peter Sellers created within that. Yeah, it's really one of my favorite classics of all time. Um, one of the things that really kind of sticks out for me is just watching Peter Sellers being able to master 3 performances, and even Stanley wanted him to do 4, but it was the first time I realized that anything like that was possible. And then beyond that, I realized that anything was possible with film because of just putting one person in 3 different positions that they played out 3 different characters across one story, and you couldn't, it was seamless. You just couldn't tell the difference in the president or group captain Mandrake. It's just there was just so many levels to what real true talent had as a mastery of being an actor during the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, what that entailed, because those guys were real craftsmen. They would come up with things that no one else would, and it was because they were one of a kind. Stanley within himself and all the other actors that he surrounded himself with, they really put out the performances that they would have given to no one else, really, because it was such a different piece of work every time Stanley approached a project. It was just on a different level. So
and that is for our new generation and newbies, our rising stars. That would be Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick, yes.
Yeah. And can you tell me that quote from that movie, please? I just been waiting for you to say it.
What? There's no fighting in the war room, gentlemen. This is the war room. There's no fighting allowed in here. Something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, that is the best. That movie, I'm gonna watch that movie tonight. That's such a great suggestion, Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, and I hope for like the TikTok listeners and the Snapchats and the Instagram, my friends from YouTube. I got some neighbors down the street that have one of those YouTube houses where they have the drone and they have the rooftop party and that clown around here. So I hope they'll watch that. And Yeah. So what is one of your favorite Criterion movies that perhaps inspired you to go into your career?
So I remember when I was about 8 or 9 years old, watching a Charlie Chaplin film called City Lights with my grandmother. And this one particular moment in my life just stands out because I realized that the lighting was so drastically different from what you would see in television at that time when I was, what is this, 84, 85, when I was 9 years old. I just realized it was so drastically different. All the shows that you were watching during that period versus what City Lights came out to be and what Charlie Chaplin had mastered in the lighting, and how they used the key light, just in a very specific way that defined that era in being able to draw attention away from certain areas and putting it onto others where the story was unfolded for you. It defined what worked for cinema at that point. They just became masters at using diffusion and just making your eye travel to where the story is happening. And it was something just notably different for me. It was something that it just catches your attention at one point. And at that time, I was taking 35 millimeter shots from my father's camera. He'd give me a roll of film a week, and he would develop it for me, and we'd see kind of, like a week in 24 or 36 exposures. And that's how I grew up. So it was defined in how things were lit and how you want to frame something in 2D to master presenting something in 3D or even 4D as an extra sensory dimension within a film. So it
Oh,
was just it was a great realization at 10 years old, 9, whatever it was.
you were
Um,
definitely on the path to be a producer, director, and cinematographer. Oh my gosh, just the way that you explained the lighting in that is extraordinary. And yeah, Charlie Chaplin, amazing. So also, like, is there, like one of your favorite directors and film shots that you'd like to share with us?
yeah, so right now I'm really on kind of a Quentin and P.T. Anderson kick, and they've got a slow dolly push that reframes the scene throughout the shot that have really become masterpieces within themselves. But keep in mind that you have to have really amazing talent to go through a 3 or 4 minute really slow push across 25 or 30 feet to cover an area of a story without cuts and make that flow and not have somebody look into the camera or something that would just really throw you off. You have to have that talent on that level to be able to carry that off and have the scene set up correctly and have teleprompters in different spots or whatever that is and have it rehearsed. But it always makes the scene way bigger than it is because it just really gets you into the moment by defining the conversation and what that really is bringing to the story. And you end up with these really close shots on people that are maybe even uncomfortable at times, but the conversation has brought you to that discomfort. And it's just that extra sensory dimension that you can pull off um, in film that, these guys are, that's why they're still shooting on film. They're masters at they, everything else that gets you to the point where you turn that camera on. They put all that work in beforehand, and that's what really pays off. Um, but one shot in mind, it's from Inherent Vice, is when uh, the two characters are sitting down in front of the window, and it's just a slow push across the floor of a bar or whatever they're in. But it really encompasses like the depth of how far away they are in the beginning of the conversation, whenever you end the scene, they're right in the middle of talking about this guy's daughter and that he hadn't seen her in years, and he's making sure that his wife is okay because he's gone on a different path and he can't see them anymore for danger. So it's really good. It's a really good scene. There's a lot of this, and you see it in pretty much every Quentin film since maybe. I mean, it's in Pulp Fiction. I'm not sure that he used it a lot in like My Best Friend's Birthday or Reservoir Dogs. I don't remember seeing it specifically, but I remember seeing it in Jackrabbit Slim's parking lot. All those slow pushes, those dolly moves and stuff that really characterize just really smooth cinema.
Yeah, I love those. How long do you think it takes 3 days to do that? How long do you think it takes to set up one of those scenes?
I would say in pre-production, you would probably pull those scenes apart and start working on them then, for your talent and for your set construction and things like that. But I would imagine probably 3 days. One day just getting it rehearsed and lit exactly right, and then just go through and give your actors some space. Get in there and let them really explore what that is and the emotion behind it and how to recreate the energy of the scene.
Wow. I mean, I love those. I actually met Quentin Tarantino and he was with PTA and I was like, "Oh my God, the frogs." And Quentin thought that was so funny. And yeah, so we kind of became friends because he's Italian and we both talk fast. So I look up to him too because I'm like, he was in the video store when there was video stores and now look at him. He's a huge director and he's fantastic. So be nice to your, coffee baristas, or you never know who might be the next big, right, extremely talented director, writer, producer, actor, or whatever, because you got to start somewhere. And if you have love for something, it looks like you can blossom and really achieve stuff. So one of the films that you would like to direct is, can you share with that, because it's so amazing?
One film that I would have loved to direct it would be Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah.
Standalone, yeah. Except for like the book ending, I would have changed the book ending. Alex would have gone out in a blaze of glory somehow instead of instead of being taunted by the old drunk on the bridge. It just would have played out differently. I would have had him steal a cop car or something. He would have gotten away somehow.
I like your ending. I like it. I like it. So just a fun fact about you. Can you say what you and your brother used to do during your summers?
Yeah, so my father, well, I had a big military family, and I had an uncle who was he was an officer. I don't know, 20 something years at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is in Tennessee. It's just right over the line in Tennessee. But we used to be able to, like, I was 12 or 13 years old, and my father, my uncle, my brother would go up to Fort Campbell, and we would launch M203 grenades out of, these grenade launchers into cars. They had these fields set up where you could launch, these grenades into different distances and things like that. That was kind of a normal thing after, like the second time that we did it, by 14 or so, it was normal. It was normal to go drop 1,000 or 2,000 rounds at the range and, do 50 203s at cars or walls or
Oh my God.
whatever that was, whatever they had set up out there. I mean, it wasn't like abstract from what I grew up as. Because I had a rifle before I had a bicycle.
Hey, that almost rhymes. I had a rifle before I had a bicycle.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the way you grow up in Tennessee, on
Yeah.
400 acres.
Oh wow, that's a lot of acres. So
It sure was.
yeah. So I want to ask, so the audience can learn about your path to success. It's like, well, how did you start?
I guess it was just well, for one thing, my father always allowed me to kind of steal his camera out of the headboard of their bed and not really get onto me so much about spooling film through it as a 5 or 6 year old that would just catch, maybe 3 shots out of the whole 36 exposures that were in focus. But that drives you to seeing what you could do better, like as a 6 year old. Seeing the film come out and it blurry and it wasn't what you saw with your eye, but you learned how to see things with your eye through the camera to get what you want. And beyond that, it was the setup, of what film you had and how you set your camera up, would depict what would be shot onto the film, and what would be, what you would see a week later or 10 days later, whenever it came back. And you got to talk about it with your dad, and what was great about it was real. It was real. It was real film. It had the grain. It had all the textures and all the blacks where they were supposed to be, and all the whites where they're supposed to be. I loved shooting black and white. Most of the pictures that I remember actually being of something that I thought was a success for me were black and white pictures from that time. So that, and I remember one specific moment. I was a kid. I think it was 5 or so. My mother took me to see Bertie Higgins, who is the famous Key Largo composer, shooting music video at a hotel in Chattanooga called the Chattanooga Choo Choo. And if I remember correctly, the group was named Atlanta. I don't think they did very much, but anyway, one of the band members during the shooting of the video was up on a diving board at the pool at this hotel, and he went in his bare feet and jeans and shirt with a guitar that was unplugged, dove off the diving board into the pool. And it just, my mind exploded at that point. I was like, but you can't do that. But they just did it right there for you. And, it just kind of, it was kind of the beginning of breaking all the rules for me, creating that no boundary point. You don't want to be defined by something. So don't be defined by that. Break the rules.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Can you tell me like a funny story? Because you have a good funny story.
Yeah. So I guess it's funny. This is more. It's more of things going wrong on set, I guess. It was so 3 years ago. I found a Kodak rep. They had a refrigerator full of new old stock Kodachrome, 200 speed, 36 exposure. They had a whole refrigerator full of it, like 3,000 cartons or something like that. And I came up with the idea of like splicing 20 rolls together to get 30 seconds to shoot a Dior commercial with Charlize Theron, and it subsequently was shot in digital. But we colored the set, used all the greens and oranges and the lighting to accentuate those colors that would come out from the Kodachrome. But the budget became too much, and they ended up shooting it digitally. As I said, they weren't, there weren't as many snafus with that as it would have been with shooting it on old Kodachrome, and getting that developed through one guy in Portland who's the only dude on the planet, I think, developing Kodachrome at this point.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was just going to be a lot. It's like a 60% budget increase, and they plus it came with a lot of, we don't know how well it will look parameters, because we're shooting with a film that was at that point, the last production run on it was 06 of 2003. So June of 2003 was all this film. So, and we were shooting 14 years later in 2017. So it was just, it was a lot of unknowns there, and a lot of extra work. I mean, we had to get this into a lab and get all this film out of these canisters and cut together in order to actually have something to put 27 seconds together.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was mad. It was a madness, but that's the level at which you try to create. You
Yeah.
don't stop because somebody said that they're going to stop making the film 15 years before your project shoots. You just don't you don't let things like that define you.
Yeah. So, so you had some disappointments, and then how did you get overcome those disappointments to achieve that success that you have?
Well, I guess most of that probably revolves around getting money for like any project ever. Um, but I get, beyond that, the real challenges are within the crew and how well that fits into the glove that you've created for that. Um, but allowing the people to work within their craft and give you their best look or something original from their genius, and collecting bright people to accentuate what it is that one does as a director is the true leadership role. Collecting those people is really number one. So you can't be a dick. You got to be, you got to be personable. You have to love everyone. And I know this is hard to look at it in this way, but you can't have bad days like that, because it breaks down that the whole pyramid of how things are built. Because that's your backbone to a project is your director, and if your director's off course or off balance with something, then you're going to create some type of discord somewhere that's not going to be what everybody was looking to get from that project. Whereas if you just have everything flowing and it's all combining to create exactly what you thought you were going to see coming through the camera, um, I think that's the beauty of it all. Having those moments where there's nothing you can make better, and it's going exactly how you envisioned.
Yeah. So, Jody, so you're part Italian, right? Sicilian, right?
Sicilian, yeah.
Yeah.
Grandmother was from Palermo, Sicily.
Yeah.
So,
And I was born in Naples, and my mom is in Naples, Italy right now. But I know you like pizza, but I want people to know that you've been working in nonprofit since you're 16 years old. Not only are you fabulous Emmy Award winning film, spectacular here, but you've been working in nonprofit, which is amazing. And, I just want to ask you, during lockdown, did you develop any hobbies, and how did it affect your art?
um, I think, well, let's hit the first subject first. I had been working with nonprofits since I think I was actually 14, whenever my mother started me out, but I actually started doing things on my own when I was 16. I had a car. Um, and I think the idea that I've developed behind what that is that pushes me to do that now, almost 30 years later, is those nonprofits are the groups that are doing tons of great things for community, which is where change really happens, right? And almost always they do it with just a ridiculous shoestring budget. Um, and that was probably one of the first things that I noticed was that, they had a $58,000 budget for something that ran all year. And I was like, how's that possible? That's like a week, or 4 days or something of shooting on any commercial project or something like that, at a minimum. Or you could burn it up in an hour, like on a feature set. And they'd have to run a 365-day program off of that. And it just showed me that money isn't always the key to success, right? Um, Especially in film, but it's there in film, it always helps. But it just shows you that you can do things just based off of the amount of energy that is put into um, anything, really, any project. If you want to look at it that way, you put enough energy into something, it's going to succeed, or whatever that is, in someone's measurement of success. But it's going to go somewhere.
I want all our listeners to know before we go on what you've been working on, because you're working on this spectacular film called Backstage, and I just want everyone to know it's a music bio picture intertwined with conspiracy theories and historical plot twists. across 3 decades, and about Marty Harwell, who toured with many big names like Sinatra and Elvis. And so, can you just tell us about that real quick before, so that the audience can know what you're working on?
Yeah, so I'm working on seven different features, a couple of documentaries, a couple of shorts in there. So there's always something, pushing my day through. But the backstage about Marty, he's a trombone player that toured with Elvis and Sinatra in their days, and I took his reality of how his life played out on tour during a lot of segregated times, a lot of different historical events, and just kind of intertwine some of the conspiracy theories and historical plot twists in there to make this a very interesting narrative. And it's fun. It's fun. It's kind of like I don't know, Wag the Dog meets Forrest Gump, if you want to break it down like that.
Oh, wow. Sounds fantastic. So you've been really busy. 7 films lined up, some documentaries, some shorts, and I know you have some other businesses as well. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing with us today and telling us all your great. I love the lighting and the directing. I can't wait to see something you direct. I'm very excited, and I wanted to thank you for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and so where can people just kind of keep up with like what you're doing? Do you have a Facebook page, LinkedIn page?
I do have a Facebook page. It's you can just search for Jody Neely on Facebook, and it'll be the first one to show up. Our Instagram at Jodester514, or you can find me on IMDb as well for Jody Neely.
Okay, that is terrific. So, well, we're enjoying some sunny weather here in Los Angeles. Until next week, film addicts, stay healthy and, cheers to everyone. And thank you for listening.